All right, today what we're going to be talking about is graphing absolute value equations. Last chapter we talked about what an absolute value equation looks like, and if you recall, it looks like a V all the time. All right, now there's something called a parent function. All right, a parent function. That means that when the equation does not have any added like plus twos, minus threes, that type of thing inside or outside of the absolute value, this is what the original one would look like. All right, where we have the bottom of our V at the origin, 0, 0. All right, and then it's going up to the right at a slope of 1 and and on the opposite side going really up at a -1 slope or decreasing slope, depending on how you want to look at it. All right, so with this, in the past, we talked a lot about these using a table to graph this. There is actually a trick that we can use when we're graphing absolute value equations, and they're called translations. All right, and these translations are sort of like tricks on how to graph the absolute value equations a little bit easier. All right, so translations. All right, so our first example. This example is when we are dealing with the value inside the absolute value. All right, inside the absolute value. So as you go down and you were to fill in this table and figure it out, we would go through and we'd say, okay, -2 plus 2 is 0. The absolute value of 0 is 0. All right, -1 plus 2, all right, is 1. The absolute value of is 1. 0 plus 2, so on and so forth. All right. And I'm going to add another value in here. I'm going to do a -3. All right. So if I were to do -3 plus 2, I would get -1. The absolute value of -1 is 1. So now if I were to go through, all right, and graph these lines, so I have -2, 0, -1, 1, 0, 2, 1, 3, 2, 4, and then my last value over here, -3, 1. Well, what's happening here is we are actually creating a V going this way. All right, now what you should notice immediately that's different from the parent function is that the bottom of our V has actually moved to the left 2 points. All right, this means that um, when we have a value inside the absolute value, this is a translation that is horizontal. All right, this is a horizontal translation. Okay, so this is an example of a horizontal translation. All right, now one of the things you should notice is because it's +2, it's actually moving the opposite way that you would think it is. It's moving negatively. All right, which means that if I had the equation y equals the absolute value of x -2, my v would be going this way, and I would have the v going like this. All right. All right, so that is an example of a horizontal translation. So now when you're looking at a graph that has the value outside the absolute value, for example, y equals the absolute value of x, plus 2. All right, so let's look at how that works. So we have the absolute value of negative 2, which is 2, plus 2 is 4. All right, so the equation, while you're solving it, would look like this. All right, and we'll keep going down the line. The absolute value of negative 1 is 1, plus 2, which is 3. 2, 3, 4. All right, so let's see how this works. So I have negative 2, 4. All right, negative 1, 3. 0, 2, 1, 3, and 2, 4. Well, what type of translation is this? This actually went up 2. So this type of translation, when you have a value on the outside of the absolute value, is a vertical translation. A vertical translation. All right. So what we can do then is we can actually look at how to graph this particular equation. All right, using those two rules. All right. So right away, and you learned this last chapter, this negative sign, when we have this negative sign, that means that instead of my V looking like this, my V is going to go upside down. All right, then I can look and I can say, all right, plus 2 on the inside means that my V is going to move this way too. And then this plus 3 means that it's going to move up 3. Now because it's a negative, my equation is going to be a downward V, and it would look like this. All right, so what I'd like you to do in your notes tonight is I'd like you to try this one. Graph this equation. We have y equals the absolute value of x minus 2 and absolute value minus 3. All right, so make sure you think about, is the v going to be this way or this way? And which way is it moving vertically and which way is it moving horizontally? All right, so that is the conclusion of today's lesson. Please be patient. Make sure that you really look at how each translation works and think it through. Don't just rush, all right? And I'm going to be looking for this example in your WISC tonight. All right, thank you guys.